If you are still excited for the Nintendo Switch 2, I've got some good news for you. Starting tomorrow, you can pre-order to your heart's content. Whether you're in the United States or even up here in Canada, you will be able to sign on to wherever you want to go ahead and plop down your hard-earned money to be a part of the conversation. Come early June 5th, you will be able to have one if you can get one of those very lucrative consoles, which, hey, this thing's going to sell out beyond a shadow of a doubt. It's going to be incredibly popular for the first couple of rounds. I'm skeptical about the long-term viability of this console, mostly because Nintendo has done an excellent job of making everybody upset in regards to this. So yeah, Walmart, Best Buy, Target, wherever the hell you can go ahead and still buy physical media at this point in time, wherever they still sell physical video game consoles, Amazon too, okay? You can log in starting tomorrow, the 24th, and pre-order. And what are the prices going to end up running you? Funny you should ask, because it's interesting, right? Because they announced at the first round of pre-orders, this was after the big Nintendo Switch 2 Direct on April 2nd, I thought it was? Yeah, on April 2nd. That came around and they said, yep, nope, next week we're going to be kicking off pre-orders, and well, actually, we're going to have to go ahead and stop that. We're going to have to put a pause on that because Trump tariffs and all that stuff, that's going to end up factoring in on things, and that's going to be very deleterious to our monetary strategy moving forward. And it's like, okay, cool. We kind of see what the writing on the wall is on this, and there was some speculation that, after the big pushback of the exorbitant pricing for underperformance, it's like, what are you doing out here? And that's not even to mention the price of games that has, yes, of course, also been confirmed as well. But there were hopeful people, hell, maybe even myself included. Actually, yeah, no, I'll just go ahead and throw myself in there thinking that, maybe Nintendo has learned a little bit, but that was also hoping against hope, but then also knowing that, yeah, Nintendo is still going to be Nintendo at the end of the day, and they might do one good thing, but then follow that up with 6 or 7 awful things, and instead of reading the room and going, yeah, you know what? In order to ensure the long-term viability, maybe we'll keep the console at the same price, okay? Because relatively speaking, it's not so much the console is overpriced. It's just everything else around it, okay? All of your different accessories, and especially when it comes to the games, that's where people have the biggest issue with. But instead, well, they just announced that, okay, the tariffs, yeah, they're going to end up affecting us. It's just which tariffs have affected people? Okay, cool. Can you point to in any of these countries where exactly? Okay, Donald Trump has come and took money out of your pockets. All right, you can't do that anywhere except for China. Okay, cool, fantastic stuff. And regardless, if you live in another country that is not the United States, it's not Trump's tariffs. It's your own country's retaliatory tariffs. Say that 10 times fast. I'm not going to, because we got news to talk about, but retail pre-orders for the Nintendo Switch 2 will begin on April 24th, 2025. At launch, the price of the Nintendo Switch 2 in the United States will remain as announced on April 2nd, not during the press conference itself, but it was just kind of, trickled out in the aftermath, because even Nintendo knew that, we're kind of price gouging here, but don't worry about it. People are big hype because we announced a bunch of third-party shit that you can already play everywhere else, and it's going to be cheaper over there, but hey, we got a 3D Donkey Kong and Mario Kart World. That's awesome, right? We're gonna charge you out the ass for that. And have we had that Mario Kart centric direct where they go ahead and justify its exorbitant pricing, where they say, oh yeah, don't worry, I don't even know if this is going to be the justification that, oh, there's going to be so much content in there that's why it's going to be worth $90. And it's like, oh no. Used to be a point in time where you would make a sequel to a game and it would just naturally have more content, and you would have different aspects of the game, and you would have different systems and evolutions of that would be included in the game that you would buy. You wouldn't charge more for that, or hey, all of the DLC moving forward, or the first round of the season pass. Okay, it'll be included in your purchase price. We're not going to tell you what exactly that is, and it could be shitty characters that you don't want, and it could just be a circle track, and we just say, hey, that's good enough for you. You already gave us your money, so it's not like we have to follow that up with anything, but you'll love it because you're Nintendoids, and you're never going to question the big N. But all of that said, if you're still convinced that, you're going to get great value out of something that you're getting gouged with, and by extension, if you're just down with that, that's going to end up setting a bad trend for gaming moving moving forward. But hey, you can just buy the console for $449, okay, or the Mario Kart World bundle for just another $50. Oh my god, you save so much on that game right there. Pricing for both physical and digital versions of Mario Kart World, $80, and a Donkey Kong Bananza for $70. OC will also remain unchanged at launch, but, however, Nintendo Switch 2 accessories will experience price adjustments. Interesting. None of them ended up going down, but yes, other adjustments to the price of any Nintendo product are also possible for the future depending on market conditions. So I've seen some simps out there say that, oh, it's so good of Nintendo. Oh, thank God. Oh, thank you, Daddy Nintendo, for not digging us so hard on the console itself. See, they're such a good company for eating the tariff on the console. What fucking tariff? Point to it on the map. Where did the orange man touch you to make your common sense go away? But no, they jacked the prices up on all of the accessories. $85 for the Pro Controller, $95 for another pair of Joy-Cons, $120 for a dock. Oh, okay, cool. $40 for a screen protector. If you want to get a bunch of different crap in there, half of which you'll use and the other half will just sit there and collect dust for $85. Or you can get a micro SD card for $60 because we're back to a point in time where instead of having, a reasonable amount of memory on your console, 256 megabytes, by the way. No, we could just have memory cards again. We're going back to a point in time where we are regressing so much that you think you're getting a deal just because it's Nintendo. It is so goddamn pathetic. But if you're abroad, it actually gets worse. Okay, and no, not talking like you're abroad, but no, abroad as in around the world. Mario Kart World on Nintendo Switch will officially cost $110 in Canada. You can go fuck yourself if you think that I would buy a vanilla game for $110. Fuck right off. That is never happening. $20 more than a standard cost for a PS5 or an Xbox game. What are we even doing? And yeah, here's the price. This is absurd. Here's the pricing for the accessories as well. Okay, so for the consoles, $630 or $700 for the Mario Kart World bundle for the console, $110 for a Pro Controller, $125 for a pair of Joy-Cons, $50 for a charging grip, $20 for a goofy piece of nylon that is a strap, $70 for that 10 FPS camera, and $85 for the memory card. What if you're gleefully waiting, and this thing is going to sell out, like it's absolutely going to sell out because the Nintendo cult is intensely strong. They could go ahead and sell a glass of Jim Jones Kool-Aid with a Mario logo on it, and people just drink that shit up, putting on their purple tracksuit and their white Nikes. Like they're in fucking Heaven's Gate, for Christ's sakes. This is just, once again, it just reinforces just how cooked the gaming industry is. I'm not a big fan of a lot of the indie slop that I see out there, but that's the only hope that we have moving forward. And Nintendo, I think that they are definitely digging too greedily and too deeply. This really does scream a Wii U all over again. It's going to sell out. It's going to be huge on launch. For June, for July, and for August, for the summer months, this is definitely going to be the console to play. But what's that supply going to look like? Are we going to have another Wii situation where everybody's, fighting and throwing bows at the store in order to get, the hot console for Christmas? I don't see it. I really don't see it because at this point, with these prices, this is absolutely absurd. And then especially for games on top of it, consoles used to be, to draw a metaphor in the sales market, it used to be like a razor blade company. Okay, where you would sell somebody the handle and you'd give them a couple of different blades, and then the games themselves would be the cartridges. It used to be far more of a tight analogy when they were cartridges way back in the day, but still, you'd go out and you'd get your 6-pack of razors, and they would be how Gillette or Mach 3 or Bic would end up making back their money, because they wouldn't make dick all on selling you the handle, but in order to keep you coming back, they would end up, making the money back on selling the overpriced razors. And that's the way that Nintendo and Sony and Xbox, Microsoft or Sega, or to a lesser extent, Neo Geo, Philips with the 3DO, that's the way that they would make their money, because they would sell the console at either a slight loss or right at cost, but the games, that's how they would make their money back. But this time around, especially when you compare and contrast the technology that you have on display, Nintendo Switch 2 offers last-gen power for next-gen price. You have to think that they are making substantial money on the console, and then they're definitely making it on their accessories, because what they're selling, like the Nintendo Switch 2 Pro controller, the fact that thing, okay, when I bought it originally for my Switch back in, what was that, 2018 or something like that, there's not much of a difference there, and you're still charging it at a premium. Experts compare Switch 2 power to PS4 despite the $450 price tag. Yeah, exactly. Because yeah, if you could have a portable PS4, it's like that's one thing, okay? Like you would have had the Vita back at the time. Oh wow, they already did that. And what was the Vita on launch? What was the price on that? That was a console that I had, and I thought it had a lot of promise. It's just Sony didn't really back it up with any games, and they kind of abandoned it in like 2 years time. But that was back in what, 2015, and I think that was only what, maybe $300. But anyways, Nintendo's next generation console, the Switch 2, is officially launching, with a retail price of $450 per, just $50 shy of the PS5. But while that price point puts it within striking distance of true next-gen hardware, early reports indicate that the Switch 2 will perform at roughly the same level as the PS4, a console that was originally launched back in 2013 for $400 and now sells, yes, used for under $200. And if you go to other marketplace style websites, you can very likely pick up a PS4 for like $100, and you would have access to quite a decent catalog of games. I'm not going to say that the PS4 had the best catalog, but it's still an extensive library of gaming for a relatively cheap price point. The question is becoming harder to answer, yes, especially for families and longtime fans hoping Nintendo would continue its trend of affordable, accessible gaming. Instead, what consumers are being offered is a premium price system with a dated power ceiling, albeit wrapped in portability and Nintendo's ever iconic IP catalog. Because, they said in the presentation that this will do 140 frames per second, and it could do 4K. What fucking Nintendo game is going to require or demand or even perform at 4K? Do you think Metroid Prime 4 is really going to be running at 4K 60? You're out of your mind. PS5 includes a solid-state drive and near-instant loading, 4K resolution, ray tracing, full third-party support for blockbuster games. Exactly. I spent most of the last year playing, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth over there, but yeah, I was only getting, 2K? Visuals, but I got 60 FPS on that, and that thing is equivalent to having, I forget my specs at this point in time, but is equivalent to a RTX 1080 that was in there. Now the PC port that I have been playing, the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, ruthlessly curb checks the performance I was getting on the PS5, and also on top of that, if I was so inclined to play any of the Nintendo Switch games that I have, which got a handful of them: Super Smash Brothers, Mario Kart 8, Deluxe, Mario Odyssey, I think Breath of the Wild. I got a couple of other ones that are in there. One of the Donkey Kong remasters. Like, if I was so inclined, theoretically, if there was a program that would allow you to play such games on, with such PC hardware out there, I could outperform anything that the Switch has right now, and then also the Switch 2 as well. But yes, meanwhile, the Switch 2 is expected to top out somewhere near PS4 Pro territory, offering improved visuals and load times over its predecessor, but still falling well short of what modern hardware is capable of. But of course, the rejoinder that you are going to get from Nintendo fans out there is, it's never about graphical performance. Nintendo was never about pushing the envelope when it comes to performance. Just don't look at the Wii U or the GameCube. No. They're all about art design and integrity in their games. Then why did they focus on their presentation of the Switch 2 for what the console can do? Oh, wow. They're trying to have their cake and eat it too, but because Nintendo fans are some of the worst console fanboys you are likely to ever find, I don't even think that that's a question at this point. They will simply gloss over it, and by the end of the Switch 2's life cycle, when no game consistently performs at 4K at 60 FPS, they'll just go, but it's so good. You didn't need to play it at that high resolution. They'll just be out there. They'll tell you how best to experience your game because you can't say anything bad about Nintendo. But first-party games on the Switch 2 are now being priced at $70 and even $80. Titles like Mario Kart World are listed at $80, while ports and re-releases like Breath of the Wild Switch 2 Edition are set, at $70 without the original DLC. And that's my biggest hang-up on this console: the overpricing of games and the under-delivering of content. And because the industry is so goddamn scummy, they're going to see all of these sycophants lap this stuff up come tomorrow. And if you thought GTA 6 at $100 was going to be bad, you just wait until that 150 price tag drops. But oh, there's going to be thousands of hours of content, yeah, and thousands of dollars in microtransactions included. You're all fucking sick in the head. So with all that said, thank you all very much for the gift of your time. I've been Don Consuelo. I want you to follow your gut and get after it. Take care, everyone.